In this video, I want to talk about using your safety while reloading, whether it be a rifle or a pistol. Personally, I don't really agree with it being a practice method, unless that's all you really care about. Of course, do whatever you want, but I fail to see the efficiency or why people are being forced to do it all the time. For a few reasons, I want to go over that. Now, from what I know, that it originated from Pat McNamara, who has his own training group and stuff like that. He's seen as a pretty good instructor or coach for firearms usage and teaching good tactics. He has a lot of strong principles and things that are very valuable, and he makes a lot of good points. However, I think this is a weak point. I think a lot of this comes down to he probably deals with a lot of shooters, a lot of police, which typically they like to boast about how well trained they are, when the reality is they don't get as much range time as they should, and not all of them are very competent when it actually comes time. Negligent discharges, stuff like that. It's very common. They always get basic training, but it's on the individual officer to actually advance that. And we're seeing a good amount of police that take it a step further in their training, and it's not just a necessary evil. But anyways, I think he deals with so many of them that he comes up with safety things that are not necessary if proper safety in your training is applied and taught. I think it's just basically a safety measure where it's a fear of something happening that's a little unrealistic, and if it's going to be applied to one, it needs to be applied universally, but the argument isn't really put in a logical way in the way I see it. Now, typically when it comes to safety, I don't understand why certain things aren't applied universally, and this is one of them. Basically, with a rifle, he did a demonstration on, his excuse being, why not? Well, we'll discuss that. I do agree that if your rifle is unsafe, then is able to be put on safe during a reload and you really feel that it's okay, then sure. Maybe if you're starting out shooting, that would be a good thing to start out with. Maybe police would benefit from that, starting from the beginning, using your safety during a reload. But it takes a lot of training to get to that point of making it instinctive to put your safety on. And the fear is that if you're in a stack or whatever, people would typically want your weapon on safe, but there's ways to mitigate that, like not pointing at people and stuff like that when you're doing a reload. That's pretty basic, but I think it's that fear that something might happen, your finger, or something might happen with the firearm. But pointing a weapon in the safest location, it's not always safe, but pointing in the safest location is probably the better principle, and some things you just can't help. The safety can mitigate that a little bit, but I think it comes out of fear that's not universally applied, and it just makes reloads difficult with some weapon systems. However, the Steyr AUG actually is very easy to put. It's very easy to put your weapon on safe during a reload. So, say I'm basically shooting, bang to bang, 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 and then when I'm having a reload, my thumb is already on the safety, and it just takes a little bit of pressure to put it back on safe, and then go back at it, and I can flick it on safe. So yes, it's actually pretty easy, and I find myself actually doing that. I practice it enough to try to see if it works. The problem is that it's not universally applied. So basically, with this rifle, it works fine. Something like my PTR 91, my G3 style rifle, it's a lot harder to put the thing on safe. So I don't see really the point, and I have to chicken wing that thing and keep my finger off. I keep my finger off the trigger. It's a habit that I've formed, and it would actually take me more time to, and not only in the reload, but the time that it would take me to competently put the safety on. It's not only going to cost me a little bit of time in training, or a lot of time in training, but by that time I could have been focusing on other skills. And I think that the problem is that during this time that it would take to retrain yourself, it could be a time spent practicing proper reps by of basically point the weapon where it needs to be. And obviously, if you're not going to be using the weapon again, then obviously flick it on safe afterwards. But typically, if you're reloading your rifle right away, it's basically you're still in the fight. And I know that his whole argument goes back to why not, and that may seem logical, but the why not is you're still in the fight. You've got more important things to worry about than sitting there, and typically you're reloading in a hurry. And even if you're in a stack of people, again, point in the safest direction possible. Safety isn't necessarily going to prevent an AD, especially in an AR. It's just going to prevent the hammer from going and tripping the sear, which you can still get slam fires in a lot of guns. So it's not universally applicable. Also, now moving on to pistols. So, this may be a double action pistol, but the whole principle of having your safety on while you're reloading, things like certain striker fired pistols, the principle is the same. Things like the M&P and stuff like that, even the new SAR 9 has a manual safety that you can put on during a reload, and it makes sense to do that in some cases. But typically the fight's not over, and when you practice so much not doing that and just pointing in a safe direction while you're doing your reloads, I think it's time wasted, not time well spent, and it's overemphasis of safety that cannot be universally applied because it has the same trigger as the Glock for the most part. So what makes this method safer with things that do have a manual safety like the M&P? It has a safety, but the trigger system is no different than one without it. That, in my mind, if you're going to really push this and advertise it, how's it going to be universally applied to people that have just a trigger safety? You're basically going to have to say, well, you need to have a manual safety for the safety of it. But if I know that Pat likes Glocks, which don't have manual safeties, and he also likes 1911s, and I'm pretty sure he likes a lot of other guns. But you can't use the safety on a 1911 during a reload either. And I actually recently saw a video of a shooting that happened between police and another guy trying to shoot an officer, and 3 officers were involved in this shooting, or at least two of them. At least 2 of them were. But one of them had a 1911 and his finger was inside the trigger guard, and he failed to actually send the slide home, but he was flagging other officers. So it's not a universally applicable thing, and I can understand where he thinks that's good to apply, where it would actually make the situation safer, but I don't remember hearing too many things happening that where people are getting shot from reloading their rifles or whatever in a stack or anything like that. I think it's just overemphasis on safety from experience of dealing with a lot of people, and it's more, to try to prevent him from having to cringe at stupid things people are doing. And again, typically people that are not very well trained and instinctively pointing in a safe direction and not flagging, being conscious of things, making it instinctive to be conscious of things around them, would mitigate that. I found that to be the experience. The drill, the repeated and constantly drilled method of properly handling in the military, it translated into that happening in combat. So again, I just don't think this is really necessary for #1 experienced shooters to cross over to this, because I feel like it's a waste of ammo, a waste of practice when you could be concentrating on other things, advancing skills in other areas, because checking a box on already being safe during reloads. So, and it's also not universally applicable to all firearms. I know his excuse or others' excuses might be that this trigger is safe because it's double action only and it's a long trigger pull. I don't see that as a valid excuse, because it should be universally applicable. So if you're going to claim one's unsafe, then all of them are unsafe, especially the 1911s, these custom 1911s that have very light triggers. So anyways, that's my view on this. I have a local instructor that's really taken to heart his, using the safety while reloading, and that's fine, but I'm not one that really jumps on the bandwagon. I have found that it's a bigger waste of time than it is. It's not as fruitful as using that time to advance my skills and other things, my proficiency with the weapon system. So it's no good for me, but for some people, maybe beginners, it would actually be a very safe method. I'm not saying it has no place, but I think that it should be isolated to people that are just getting into firearms if you feel it's necessary. But again, the time it's going to take in not only in the reload itself, but also in the training process, even for new shooters, will probably be more of a detriment than a benefit. But everybody's got to make their own decisions. This is just my opinion, my experience, and stuff like that, and where I'm at and why it doesn't work for me. But I can still understand the benefits of it. So I hope this discussion was at least somewhat entertaining, but go ahead and leave your comments below what you think about this if you use this, and tell me what you think. But anyways, I have nothing against this. My logic on it is it does me more harm than good, and some others might find that it'd be the same way. I know other students felt this way. But anyways, thanks a lot for watching. You guys have a good one. One more thing on the safety being used during a reload. The argument is, another argument that I heard was, if there's a lull in the fight, the safety rule of using your safety whenever you can. If you have a safety, use it, if you're not actively shooting it. And yes, but that is an excuse a lot of the times. There's a lot of safety rules that we end up violating anyways, like pointing your never point in at anything you do not intend to, shoot. That gets violated every time you point your weapon at anything and you're not shooting. So why are we going to emphasize one over the other? If one's being applied, they're supposed to be overlapping to save you in one way or another. A finger off the trigger and stuff like that. And I like to say, point your weapon in the safest direction. Because it's not always going to be the safest when you're dry firing. You're probably going to be pointing at somebody miles away, or somehow pointing at something that's not safe, and of course you don't want to blast a hole in your wall. But some people say, dry fire pointing at body armor. Get fucking real. But anyways, it just overemphasis of safety is kind of annoying. And a lot of times it's like, use your safety if you have it. And of course, this pistol, this SAR CM9, I love this pistol. Also, if you have a safety, use it. 1911s. We go back to that argument. This one is not very easy to actuate, but I can actuate it if I'm doing a reload, and then flipping it back off is not really that easy. So it kind of sucks. If I get the proper grip, I haven't been able to do it efficiently out of a holster, especially with gloves on. But yeah, it doesn't always apply, and it's more of a detriment and prevents you from being able to use something that you shoot very well. And again, we go back to, well, you have a safety on your Glock and you're using it, by keeping your finger off the trigger. And the M&P has a manual safety, and you keep your finger straight off the trigger with its trigger safety on there, so you are using the safety. And a double action may not have a trigger or a manual safety, so what are you going to do then? If we're going to emphasize and concentrate and bitch about one safety thing and try to use that as an excuse, I think we need to be a little more sensible and stuff like that. Well, if you can get away with it, then do. Yeah, stealing. If you can get away with stealing, then do. How the hell does that even make any sense? Let's not overemphasize things to where we're stressing people out and just making ridiculous rules just because we want to be right, because we're scared of something happening. And even if something did happen, there's going to be accidents anyways. So guns blowing up and stuff like that, might as well not use any gun or this gun brand because it might blow up, or might as well not use this ammo because it blew up while somebody was doing something stupid with something else. I mean, you're not going to be able to stop everything bad from happening, but we shouldn't punish other people just because we believe that, we can prevent things. It's a little bit ridiculous. I don't remember that many people shooting themselves during reloads or shooting somebody else during reloads. It could happen. Shit happens. We're able to do amazingly stupid things. But anyways, I just wanted to go ahead and add this in. Thanks a lot for watching. Get this video, like, subscribe to my channel, and don't be afraid to leave a comment below. You can agree, disagree, that's what this is about, sharing opinions and stuff like that, and getting people involved in the conversation. But keep it sensible. Think about what you're saying before you say it, and let's keep the gun industry, gun community, whatever you want to call it, keep it nice and healthy and reasonable, and stay up on current events. It's 2019, so we need to kind of act like it. A lot of developments in firearms tactics and gear. So anyways, thanks a lot for watching. You guys have a good one.